Welcome home, all. Thank you for being here. We are June 3rd, 2026. We are into the summer officially. Once we get into June, starts to heat up, school's finishing up, and we're going off into the summer and seeing what that holds for us in a lot of ways, right? So it is seeming like, man, that coming off that weekend, when we go off on the Thursdays and you go through the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday into Tuesday. That's just a lot of window to to unpack everything that goes on through a weekend from the Friday into the Monday, et cetera. And that's kind of where my mind at is, today. And we're not going to do or not going to get too specific on a particular. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that for the Thursday and go toward kind of like where we were last week. And I'll just say, like, there's a point here where regular people, normal people, not members of the cult, are just sick of this shit, just tired of Trump and his fools, this clown show into every aspect of our life and our lives. Here's the most pertinent example coming. This is a World Cup year. And the World Cup, whether you are a soccer fan, football fan, it's called football in the rest of the world, soccer in our country only. But if you're a football fan globally, a soccer fan in the United States, and you're around that and you love it and you respect it and you love that game, it is a global game. It is one of the few sports that really does unite the whole world. Again, let's be reasonable here, but let's say more of the world than any other sport. It really does. It brings people together for sport and to enjoy and to watch all the parts that people love about sport, right? The competition, the energy, the passion, the belief in your country and your countrymen, people, and watching all those emotions play out in skill and discipline and the lives that these guys commit to that sport, to that profession, career, to that love of their game, right? And then we can all appreciate that and all love it. We all do that in a lot of ways with our own, whether it's a soccer game or football or track or wrestling in my case, other sports, male and female. And so you can really appreciate it, and it's fun and it's good. And I've said that. It's like I enjoy watching baseball now more than I ever have in my life. I love watching baseball. I can just have it on. I like watching Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers. I'm a Dodger guy going back to when I was a little kid. So I was raised on them. And obviously they're doing well now, but I can enjoy just watching and not having to think about the crap and the garbage that goes on in this country that I don't want to, that you want to kind of like unplug from for a little bit of time, for a microcosm of your day, to not have to think about the negative shit, the garbage, the stupid crap that goes on. And so you could just enjoy. And for the record, I'm not soft that way. I don't believe in hiding from things or denying them or believing that they do not exist and burying your head in the sand and not acknowledging the things that need to be addressed or talked about or that we need to do something about. I'm front line on that. I quite literally get on air and talk on a microphone and a screen because I believe in that. I believe that we need to stand up and say something. I believe that. And on the other end, I also believe that regular people need to have something that they can hold to themselves that is just positive and good, right? Balance. And where am I going with that? Well, I'm going right to where it needs to be gone to, which is we can't get that. The World Cup's coming. I'd like to watch and not have to worry about anything. But even before we begin the World Cup, there's all kinds of political garbage with what dumb shit Trump says or does. And even though the United States isn't the only host, because games will be hosted in Canada and Mexico, kind of like that too, by the way. I do like that. I like the fact that our neighboring countries that we're not treating real well. And I say we, I don't mean that, collectively, like you and I, you watching me right now, more than likely anyway. Trumpers don't watch my show. If they do, they bitch and complain and say racist shit in the comments. And then they get the hell out and go somewhere else like moths to the flame, right? So if you're watching this, you're like, that's pretty cool. We, meaning you and I, are not treating our neighbors poorly, Canada and Mexico. But our fearless fat piece of shit leader is treating Canada and Mexico poorly, not like allies, not like neighbors. If I were a younger dude, and I'll just say, if I were a younger dude and I had a neighbor like that, I'd beat his fat ass just to teach him a lesson out of exercise. An exercise. Because I don't like resorting to violence. I generally do not. But if someone pushes you there, someone takes you to that point, does things to you, and honestly believes that they cannot be stopped and that you cannot do anything to them, humanity shows, as I reminded myself with a friend not too long ago, a few days ago, then when you leave people with no recourse, when you leave people with no option, when you leave people no choice because you think you can continue to get away with the garbage and the bullshit and the illegality and the immorality and the unethical conduct and all the other words that are not positive, then you give no one choice. You give no body choice. You give people no choice. And they respond and they do something, and it's usually not positive. That is the way of history. That is the way history works. Whether we want to admit it or not, it is there. It is there for you to read and understand and know that when you push people so far that they actually feel hopeless with no recourse, 99% of the time when they get to that low point, that nadir, that bottom, they will respond in an ugly fashion, usually violent, because they feel like they have no other option. They have no alternative, because the mechanisms which we have been told that are ours to use to correct illegality, immorality, unethical, when that system is broken and the things that we do no longer matter and we play by the rules, but the rules are favoring a small group of people that do whatever the fuck they want, then don't be surprised if someone goes outside of those rules. I want to watch the World Cup, and I don't want to have to hear about Donald Trump's bullshit. I don't want to hear him talking crap about other people just because he can. And I'll say this. I don't like the fact that Iran has a soccer team and those players genuinely, honestly feel unsafe coming to play in this World Cup. There's more there. I won't go into too much here. But I think that's fucking sorry that an athlete that has nothing to do with the government, a regular person, yeah, maybe they look a little different than us. Maybe their skin's a little different color. Not so much more than mine, by the way. Speak a different language, have a different religion. But they can't come together with us in the joy of sport because they have fear of coming to play in this part of the world where they are unsafe and they cannot be protected because we have a sack of shit president that says it openly. That's a problem because that's us. That's us. So I have a problem with that. And that is my underlying point to start the show tonight. You know shit's bad when we've gotten to a point where nearly every aspect, probably uniformly every aspect of our lives has been intruded upon, violated, and made less because of the politics, the heinous word, the ugly word. Politics is by itself is not necessarily inherently a bad word. It is supposed to be a good word. But it is a bad word in these cases, in this case in particular. Inserting politics into our joy. The few things that we have as regular Americans that we can actually enjoy with family and friends and people that we maybe have never met before, but we have something in common, the joy and love of a sport, the joy and love of competition, the joy and love of competing against each other, and win or lose or draw, in the case of football, soccer, win, lose, or draw, we still have a respect, an understanding, and appreciation for the other person, the other group of people. And as I've said that over the last second and a half, 2 seconds, we do know that we can't do that in this Trump existence, because to him it's winning at all costs, including anybody else's cost. He doesn't give a shit as long as he gets what he wants. And that is quite literally the antithesis to what we are supposed to be teaching our children and our kids as we raise them. That it doesn't matter if you lose, as long as you did so in a dignified, honorable, hardworking, and appreciative way. It's good to lose. I'll say it. It's good to lose. Because you'll learn from the loss, not just in that particular skill or avocation or profession or career or whatever it is you're doing, but because it teaches you something about yourself and it teaches you something about somebody else. And that is quite literally the benefit to competition, to sport. And when you violate that and you intrude upon it, you infect that. You cancer that shit. Then you violate the body itself. You violate us as a whole. You infect us as a whole. You become cancerous to the American fabric as a whole. And that is quite literally what Donald Trump is. He is a fucking cancer to this country. A fucking infection, a violation, an intrusion. Something abnormal to what we are supposed to be. And for the record, we always have that. That's part of the body. But it's part of the body's job to regulate and to minimize and to dismiss and to remove that cancer from the system. And for nearly 250 fucking years, we've kind of done that. We've had ups and downs. We've had problems. We've had issues. We've had situations. We've had slavery, Reconstruction, civil rights, communist scare, McCarthy era. I can go on and on. I'm a U.S. history teacher, and I can give you all the things that are not good about what our country has been and the things that we've done or not done that have made us less than what we are supposed to believe in ideal. But I definitely go on record today that in our 250-year history, this is the worst infection. This is the worst cancer to our body in our nation's nearly quarter of a millennia history. I believe that. I can't even watch a fucking sports that I love, without something coming up about what Trump said or did, or the people that he's talked about or saying shit about or doing things to. Last point, and then I'll move on to this. I'm a Dodger fan. I like watching the Dodgers. And I'll watch some of the shows once in a while just to kind of get, updates, a podcast or a stream online on YouTube in particular, this format, this medium here. And they'll talk about, oh, this player's hurt, or we're going through something. And I do kind of like, because again, it allows me to unplug a little bit from my political attunement in life that way. Allows me to get into a sport. And I noticed that over the last couple of years, there has been one topic in particular in Dodger world that is kind of like non grata. Nobody wants a part of it. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it pops up or creeps up. It is because the Dodgers have won the World Series the last couple of years, 2 in a row. Because they've won the World Series, generally speaking, customarily, the sitting president invites that team to the White House, to be recognized for their title, for their championship. And that in particular has caused friction and schisms within the Dodger fan base. Because I'll say it, the Dodger fan base, even though now more so than ever before it's global and there are Dodger fans all over the country and all over the world for that matter, a big portion of the base of the Dodger fan base is Mexican-American. Mexican-American. And it's hard to reconcile being Mexican-American for a group of players and a franchise that is built upon Mexican America, principally in Los Angeles. Now, I won't get into all the history of Chavez Ravine and all that. That does play, by the way. That is part of it. But the fact that Donald Trump actively, through his immigration policies and his lackeys and his minions and the pieces of shit that he calls his cabinet, are actively out there ghosting people in the middle of the night, Hispanic people, Latino people, and Mexican people in particular. That's hard for us to watch as the Dodger ownership or leadership takes us to the White House and makes nice and shakes hands and takes pictures. That's hard. So my point is that, yeah, it even infects, that fan base. It infects that franchise. And it affects, and my point ultimately is, Donald Trump has infected or affected literally just about every sport. If you ask him a question, he'll pop off and say something stupid about it and give his filthy opinions on something that usually don't track with the rest of America, but they're his views and they infect. Okay? So that is where we are. And I want to be able to enjoy and just watch the damn thing, right? I just want to watch without any of that crap to go with it. Want to be able to enjoy. And let me wrap this point up as we start the show, little long in, 15, 20 minutes here, but this matters because it's our social fabric. It's who we are. This is what we do. We like sports. We like entertainment. We like other things. I won't even get into all that. He has infected just about every aspect of our life. I would like a fucking president that just shuts his mouth and leaves me the fuck alone when it comes to my enjoyment. How about that? And that's not a Republican or a Democrat thing, a left or a right thing, a conservative or liberal thing. That's a fucking American thing. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is foundational to what our country is. Those words in our documents that began this country as we creep toward 250 fucking years. It is essential. It is foundational. It is a part of our fabric. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I want to pursue happiness by being able to watch a sport, listen to some music, watch a movie, enjoy entertainment, my leisure time, my time to enjoy, without a president or any politician inserting their horse shit into my enjoyment. There is a novel concept. Not so novel. But I want you to consider that after we start here tonight, but consider that. I want you to consider that. And again, the cult doesn't watch my show, but this is for my people, my Supermex Mexicans and Supermex Americans that are out there. You may not be Mexican, but you're Supermex. If you believe in the things I believe in, I'm with you. You're with me. This is one of those things. Don't you just want to be able to enjoy your life with the bullshit politics creeping into it from a president that sticks his goddamn nose in everything that we do? Again, and to finalize the point, put a fine point on the shit. That is not liberal or conservative. That is not Republican or Democrat. That is not left or right. That is apolitical. And that is fundamentally American. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Coming from this brown guy that believes in that to his core. And I don't give a shit if you're not brown, maybe you're white, green, orange, or whatever the fuck you are, I don't care. But that should be fundamental to you if you're really American. Yeah, I said that. If you're really American, then you're with me on that. We're in the majority. We are right. Consider that as we get ready to watch the World Cup or any sport or any entertainment for that matter. It is not a lot for us to ask to be able to enjoy. Again, it's foundational. It is in our founding documents: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We revolted, started a revolution, kicked out a king in a country because we believe in those things. So I'll be damned if I sit here on my ass and not say anything about a wannabe lard-ass king trying to do that today. That is all American. Okay, let's get down to some business here. We are in the Trumpstein War, day 96, well over 3 months. And as of today, I'm willing to call it, it's 96 days, and some of you are going to quibble or take some issue with it. I don't give a shit. Another forever war. And here's why I'm going to say forever. Not forever in the sense that we're there 20 years. Iraq and Afghanistan, okay? But I want you to consider, is it possible we can be there for 20 years? Personally, I don't think so. Because this next election cycle, and it isn't coming fast enough, trust me. Maybe we get a president, and it's probably not going to be a Republican. If a Republican wins, we can still end up being in the Middle East, in Iran, for more years. So all of those that ran around, all you people that said, oh, we don't like forever wars, we don't want to send our kids over there to die, we don't like spending our money in other countries, we don't like being taken advantage of by foreign leaders, which we are. All of that shit is true, by the way. All of this. You ran your mouth, you said things, and here we are. So, call you on the carpet. If you don't believe those things are who we are or what we should be doing, then I'm telling you point blank, if you elect a Republican president this next go-round, we're probably still going to get stuck there and be there for a while. My hope is, and again, it isn't simply because, at this point, I will say that this is simply, we almost need a Democrat to win. Because if a Democrat wins, then we're probably done with this stupid-ass war if it's lasting that long or if it goes that far. Because as most things over the last 20 to 25, 30 years, it's usually the Democrat, and I can say this with specifics and with background and back up, it's usually the Democrat that has to come in and clean up the shit that the Republicans started. Weapons of mass destruction, housing crash, COVID, all of that shit was Republican fuck up. And the Democrat comes in after and has to clean the shit up. And here's my issue. We don't just need a Democrat because normally the Democrats come in to clean up. We need a Democrat with the fucking sack. And I don't mean sack in the physical sense, okay? Because it can be a female for all I care. But a sack in the sense that they're going to come in and actually do something about this bullshit. Get us out of stupid-ass wars, started for oil, or started because Trump is named in the Epstein files more than any one person other than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. One dead, one in prison. Well, take that back, kind of a prison. We're going to need a Democrat that has spine and backbone to clean this shit up. Because the mess on aisle 5 ain't a fucking mess. A tornado went through that shit. We're going to need something special. I'm going to call it now. We're not just going to need a Democrat because a Republican won't do it. Let's just be straight about that. Okay? There are some Republicans that I used to like and be okay with. They're gone. They're fucking gone. All that's left is ass kissers and bootlickers. That's all that's left. That's not spine. That's bitch. Okay? We're going to need a Democrat with a fucking ironclad backbone to clean this shit up. And watch this, because I've kind of been alluding to this over the last few months. Not just to clean up like they normally have to do, but clean up and clean the fuck out. Clean this shit up and penalize, punish, and smoke all the shit that's been going on for years now. Everything that they've gotten away with, and I say everything they've gotten away with, trying to give money back to fucking January 6th insurrectionists to try to overthrow the government. As far as I'm concerned, we need to find a way to reverse the goddamn pardon of the January 6 people that beat the shit out of cops and try to overthrow our government. We need to find a way to hang those fuckers. We do not only put them behind bars, but try them for treason. That's where I'm at. And for some very, very legitimate good reasons. There is no accountability. There is no belief in system. I've alluded to you there as well. If I cannot believe that this system works, I will no longer believe in the system, and then it all crumbles. And when I say I don't mean myself specifically or personally, but I mean wholly, holistically. We all need to believe that the system works. And right now, we don't believe the system works. The system is quite literally only working for a fraction of a percentage, less than 1% of this population. They don't live like you or me, not exactly poor, not exactly dark-skinned, and don't come from the streets or the fields. This thing only works if we believe in the system, and right now we do not believe in the system. So I want a president, because it's at this point, who the hell is it going to be? We need to elect a president that is not just going to do things somewhat normal, by the way, normal, whatever the hell that means, but that is going to roll back the clock and make these fuckers pay a price. All of it. People committing crime, people that are pardoned, people that Donald Trump has pardoned and are out fucking little girls and trafficking kids, even now as we speak. That's all true, by the way. Matter of fact, I probably need to do a show with just the specifics on the pardons and the people that have been pardoned that are criming more after the pardon. There needs to be repercussion. There needs to be reciprocity. There needs to be damage to the evil people that are getting away with shit right now. That's the president I want. That's what I want. Now, on record, I don't know if we're going to get that. It may be asking too much for me to want that, to expect that, to hope for that. But if you're watching here, if you're listening here tonight, or later on a recording, or later after the fact, prove me wrong. Or better yet, agree with me. There needs to be payback. There needs to be punishment. There needs to be repercussion. I'm beyond slapping the hand of the person putting their hand in the cookie jar. And if you're with me, you know what comes next. I don't want to slap the hand of that person putting their hand in the cookie jar. I want to chop his fucking hand off. That is where I'm at. You're like, harsh. We've seen the result of things not being harsh enough. They just keep doing it and doing more. They're getting away with more as we speak. So, filthy rich CEOs that are using the system right now, paying to play, literally writing checks to Donald Trump and his family while they get legislation passed and other things that are favorable to them, or government contracts that are making them even wealthier and richer, to where the upper 1% of this country is wealthier now than at any time in our nation's history. All provable, all true. And the poorest of us in this country are getting more poor. And life is getting harder because our dollar does not buy the same amount. While the wealthy get rich, the rich get richer. That stupid ass, overused, oft-used term that is irrefutably true. And no more so true than today. That's now. As my old drill sergeant would say, I want some ass and I want it now. Meaning, I want some payback. You fuck up, you're going to pay a price. I want some ass and I want it now. I want it yesterday. So more than likely, and this is down the road, obviously, but more than likely, yeah, I'm voting for a Democrat, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to vote for. I'm going to vote for a Democrat that has the greatest ability to whoop some ass and take some names. And as I say that, you're probably shaking your head like, well, we're not going to get that. And that's probably the only, those are the main issues I've always had with the Democratic Party. Is they're right about a lot of things fundamentally. They believe in helping the poor. They believe in doing things. All right, all good stuff. But then they lack the backbone and the fucking ironclad armor to go and whoop that ass on the people that do the evil shit. That has always been my issue with the Democratic Party. I'm a Democrat, but I'm not that Democrat. I don't want that part. That is one of the things I did like about the Republican Party when I first got out of the Army and I looked at both parties, is that they fall in line and they line up and get shit done. The problem is, what if you're doing evil shit? That's where we are today. And it's too much to ask, right? We can't get like a hybrid or combination of somebody like that. Rarely do we get that. I don't think Obama was that. I think Clinton kind of was, not in the badass way, but the dude got things done. And we haven't had that on the Republican side in quite a while. Not in my lifetime, not in my memory, by the way. So I know it's a lot to ask, and I'm digressing here to the political specifically on that, but that is what I want. That is where I'm at on this Trumpstein War Day 96. And back to the original point, this could be another forever war. It is possible that we end up going down this road. And it's also possible that Trump gets a wild hair up his ass. Maybe it's Putin's schnitzel in him. And he says, well, I'm done with this war, and he moves on. And then we lose the war because nothing's been gained. Iran, I've already articulated this message. Iran is making more money off their oil now than they did before. They are still not without nuclear capability. It's damaged, yes, but they're still going to continue. All we've done is kill women and children. With what to show for it? So this could be another forever war. And I'm quite literally, I put that in the title tonight because I want that seared into your brain, seared into the backs of your eyeballs as it transfers from your optical into the brain. This might be another forever war. I hope not. It's an asshat war to start. Shouldn't be there. We're losing this war, not in the sense that we're bombing and killing people, for sure, but definitely from the perspective of we've lost more allies. That hurts. That's a loss. We have lost perception in the eyes of the world. We're no longer the good guy that takes care of the little guy. We're the bully that picks on people because they're not as strong as we are. Because as I've said before, and I'll put it straight out there, it's not like it's not like Donald Trump's picking a fight with China or Russia or even North Korea. He'd rather kiss their ass. He doesn't pick fights with people that can fight back. He picks fights with the people that he doesn't think can fight back. That's a bully. And in my world, where I grew up, that's a bully, but that's also a bitch. Be clear. And I think we all know he'd never fight the fight himself. He is 6'4", 300 pounds of stacked bitch. He would never fight. He'll send your son and daughter, but he would never fight. He'll send your son and daughter, but he'd never send his kids to fight. Yet some people will still support him. You're a special kind of stupid. Your own special brand of stupid. Quick point, and we're gonna be done a little quick tonight. Because I've given you some hard meat, all true, all business. Trumpstein War, day 96. It'll go down in history under the taint. Don't think that. Under the taint and the specter of he started this war because of the negative blowback he was receiving because of the Epstein files that have still yet to be fully released, that his name is all over, that no one is being prosecuted for. He is literally the pedophile protection president. All in evidence. All in evidence. Because his Department of Justice is not prosecuting or investigating anybody in the Epstein files. And if you were one of his people and you supported him because he said he was going to release the Epstein files and all the bad people, all the sex traffickers, and all the filthy pieces of shit that do shit to little girls. If you were one of those people that believe that, and you're still with them now, then you know where this goes. You are indeed a special kind of stupid. You are indeed a special kind of stupid because it's all in evidence as of now, as of today. So consider that. Moving on here, consider that. There is a very distinct and real possibility that we could be in another forever war for no goddamn reason other than Donald Trump wanted to deflect attention from the Epstein files. And ancillary benefit, wanted to kiss ass with Vladimir Putin and for sure Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu. They're getting what they want. Russia's making more money off this fucking war. Think about that. How many ways can Donald Trump fuck the United States and benefit our enemies? Yeah, that one's going to need to be, somebody's going to need to write that book because there's a lot of evidence to prove it, that is the case. Last point. The House, I believe today, this is hysterical. It's funny. The House of Representatives, the Congress, voted to limit Trump's war powers. Now, on the surface, you're like, yay, right? Because the majority of this country, again, just spitting facts to you. You're a Trump nut watching this or you catch it slowly and you don't like it, go fuck yourself. But this is a fact. The majority of this country does not want this asshat stupid war. The majority of this country. I'm in the majority. If you're watching this show, more than likely you're in that majority. This is a stupid ass war. This is the most, well, how many times I got to say it? Illegal, unconstitutional, and incompetent. This is the most illegal, the most unconstitutional, and the most incompetent war in the history of this country. Period. I'll argue with anybody and win the argument. And I don't give a shit how good you are with words or language. Because this is easy. Ladies and gentlemen, don't argue points you can't win. It's just stupid. Makes you look stupid. Not like you're really bright for being able to argue a point that's losable or stupid. That doesn't make you smart. That makes you a dumb shit. As always, this is Trumpstein War, day 96, the most illegal, the most unconstitutional, the most incompetent war in the history of this country. That is how it's going to be written. That is how it's going to be remembered. But the House voted to limit Trump's war powers today. Why? They've rolled with just about everything he does in a sycophantically, disgusting and historic way. This is the most spineless party in the history of this country because of the power they hold and their unwillingness to do anything about blatant corruption, incompetence, and stupidity. The most spineless party in the history of this country. Today's Republican Party. Even the know-nothing party has not a goddamn thing on today's Republican Party. Yes, For those of you that do know, and yes, for those of you that don't know, there was such a thing for a time called the Know Nothing Party. This Republican Party has got those jokers beat by a long shot. So the House voted to limit the powers. Not going to get into all the particulars. It's kind of whatever. It is quite literally, and as I finish tonight, it is quite literally this. Trump is the lame duck coming in. He's been on the job a little over a year. I won't even say on the job because he sits on his ass more than he does anything else, or goes golfing on our taxpayer dollar, spending more money on golf tournament or trips and fees and clubs than any president in the history of this country, period. Also fact, also provable, also no argument. He's the laziest fat sack of shit to ever sit in the White House and do nothing other than spend our money, waste our money. So why are they doing it now? Because he's got 2.5 years roughly. And some of these people are getting ready for re-election in the fall. After, I didn't do that. We had an election yesterday. I didn't even talk about it. Well, maybe Thursday. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. Let me remind myself. Watch this. I'm going to write it down. Because not all the election is done in California. Obviously, there's still some, stuff coming in later. But I apologize for not spending any time on that tonight. I'll do this on the Thursday. Because I had some interest in some of these races. Some I kind of helped, some I did not. But I will say that generically, I got almost everything I wanted in the people that did win locally or in the races that I was involved in. Okay, move on. So there's a race in the fall, in November, for the general election for United States House of Representative seats and some Senate seats. United States Senate seats. These jokers right now are hedging their bets because they want to be able to go and campaign and tell some of their voters they did not vote for this, they did not vote for that. Oh, look, I'm not for the war. I didn't vote for that. I voted against it. Trump's doing too much. They're doing quite literally what I tell people all the time. What I tell all my friends, I tell all my family, I tell everybody that asks me for any bit of sound advice. When you can filter all decisions that are made through the fulcrum, prism, through the prism of, I trust people to act in their own interest first. You're going to be right 99% of the time. Not 100. You don't have to be perfect, but 99% of the time. I trust people to act in their own interest. And if you can follow that trail back to whoever's interest it is and the decision they made, you'll almost always find the right answer. People act in their own interest. When you look at their decisions, trail back to what their interest is, and you'll always find the answer why. I.e., House members in the general election in the fall and some Senate are acting in their own interest right now. They got to juggle and balance how they get elected in the fall when a majority of Americans do not want this war, and that includes Republicans, not all Republicans, but most, or a lot. The majority of this country does not want this war. So when a representative or a senator has to go to their electorate in November, they have to answer for this war. We don't want this war. And the senator or the representative are going to say, I'm not for this war. See, I voted against giving him more power to conduct it. And pay attention to the inflection in my tone and pay attention to how I say this. Because this is after the fact. They've already let him get away with everything. He's done whatever the hell he's wanted. There was no curbing. There was no going to Congress, a la, and I've said this before, a la Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We actually got bombed in Pearl Harbor. And the first thing that Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of the greatest presidents we've had, top 5 at least, goes to Congress because it's the people that are supposed to make the decision whether we go fight and lose kids. It's the people that are supposed to make those goddamn decisions. Not one person, not a president, but a Congress and the people that are elected by us to make those decisions. Franklin Delano Roosevelt watches American citizens and American military get bombed and killed. And he doesn't act reflexively and say, oh, attack them. He goes to the Congress to get permission from the American people in the form of their elected representatives to conduct a war against the people that attacked us. These fuckers in Congress today didn't do that. They didn't do that. They let him do whatever the hell he wanted. And now as we get closer to the election, oh, that's too far. Oh, we're going too far now. You know, we let you do whatever you want. But now we can't. Pull back a little. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. You're already bitch. So as you filter this, and if you watch my show, you know that I don't bullshit a whole lot and I don't play games a whole lot. Call it what it is. You got people in the Congress that now all of a sudden are like, oh, we're not for this, when they've been for this. Why all of a sudden? Again, simple. We're getting into the summer. Got a handful of months before the election. Yeah. Now they're going to start doing some things that might look a little bit like normal or right, or that might look a little bit like what the country actually wants, because their asses are up for election in November. If you remember nothing from tonight's show, if I haven't said it before to you, remember what I say to you now. Trust people to act in their own interest. And again, if you see stupid shit, if you see things done that are wrong, bad, evil, malicious, crime, go back to the center and use those words that I've just stipulated for you. I trust people to act in their own interest. And the answers become blatantly clear, just like a big billboard right in front of you. It's all there for you to see. Easy to see. I trust people to act in their own interest. I trust congressmen in the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate to act in their own fucking interest so they can get their sorry asses elected again. That's what I trust. So again, use those words, put it in your frame, filter the shit you see with that one sentence. And then it all makes sense. It's understandable. It's comprehensible. You get it. Not complicated. Like, why would they do that? I got the answer for you. I trust people to act in their own interest. Oh, there you go. That's why, right? That's why the House voted to limit some war powers. And watch this as I finish up tonight. They'll vote to limit his war powers, and he's probably going to do this shit anyway. He'll probably do this shit anyway. Because a criminal going to crime. A rapist going to rape. A sack of shit going to be a shit. We'll see. But I'm not optimistic. Not overly, not at all. But I trust Trump to act in his own interest. And that is the most solid and simple of statements that you're ever going to hear on a fucking live stream or podcast today, if not anytime. I trust Donald Trump to act in his own interest. Remember that for tonight, and it answers everything else. Easy to understand. Okay, promises. I'll speak a little bit. I'll make sure I wrote that down. I'll make sure we're good for Thursday. We'll talk a little bit about elections. Again, I'm pretty good because almost everything that I wanted to happen happened in terms of the people that ran and that got elected or are making it to the general election in November in California. And then I've got a few other things for specific. I was going to say particular, got mixed up with specific. They can be the same, not always. Depends on how you use it. But for specifics, I'll provide you some of that. And in particular, I'll give you some things that I talked about tonight that I want to flesh out so you have a little more ammunition and ready at hand data again, a lot of this, as I finish up tonight, a lot of this is for you to inform yourself. And I do my damnedest to make sure that I've got data, statistics, and facts for you so you can have in your head. So when someone's trying to bullshit you or play games, you'll know because you have facts and data in your head. They can't pull bullshit over you if you know the truth, if you know facts, if you know data, if you know what is right. It gets really hard to be bamboozled and bullshitted. Okay? You'll smell it coming a mile away. You'll smell it coming, you'll know. Anyway, we'll do that on the Thursday. Thank you for being here. We'll be back on, like I said, on Thursday, and we'll have a little bit more of this wrap up. But yeah, last statement, words to live by. I trust people to act in their own interest. I trust Donald Trump to act in his own interest, not the interest of the American people. Period. Full stop. Done. That's a fact. I'll see you on the Thursday. Have a good few days here. Number love for you. We'll be back on Thursday.